Welcome to Mentoring Moments. I'm in this beautiful nursery school, founded, owned, and managed by my guest today. Like I always say, one of the beautiful things in the world is access, having access to people. And so today I'm going to be serving you with the knowledge of a proprietress today who owns this beautiful and amazing nursery school in the neighborhood here, not too far from where I pastor. All right, so welcome to Mentoring Moments. Stay tuned, you're going to have a good time. Nike, welcome to Mentoring Moments. There we go. All right, I'm happy. I'm happy to be here. I drove in through the gates, and I'm very, very impressed.
Thank you.
Very impressed because I know you brought me here to dedicate this place when you were just about to start. It was just like it was a shell. It was a shell, and just walking around and looking at how beautiful this place is, it's just amazing. It's amazing, and I also know that you are expanding. We're going to talk about that in a moment. All right.
Okay,
So first, just for the purpose of our viewers today, I want you to just briefly introduce yourself and introduce what you do.
Okay. So I'm Mercy Nike, also known as Nike, and I work with children. I run this nursery, and another one coming up.
So how long have you been going?
Okay, so about 9 years now, actually. So this is the second one. So I started off at the first one you dedicated in Dartford.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, in Dartford. Yeah,
Yes.
that's where you started. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why nursery? Why nursery? So you've been going on for 9 years now, right?
Yes.
So why nursery?
So I've always had an unquenchable passion for children. I just love children. I don't see it as work. It's just something I've always loved to do. Actually, when I was about 10 years old, in line with this passion, I'm always talking to my dad about it. He actually did buy a big plot of land for me. We went there, we prayed, and we dedicated it. That was back in Africa. That was going to be my first school.
Wow.
Yes.
And so your dad bought a piece of land and he
Yes.
wanted you to use that piece of land for a nursery.
Yes. We started the foundation. We prayed on it. We put scriptures around it. Yes.
Wow. So this is your dream and not your daddy's dream, or are you doing this because you love your dad?
No, this is my dream.
Okay, all right.
Always been, yes.
All right. So
Yes.
now I know we are here in Belvedere. You started in Dartford,
Yes.
but I equally know that you started from home.
Yes.
Yes. So how did you get? Because for the purpose of those who are watching here now, and they think, well, I would like to go into nursery,
Okay.
right? You started from home,
Yes.
and now you move from home to a rented facility.
Yes.
So what was it like starting from home? How did you get started from home? How did you grow that? I mean,
Into it.
yes.
So basically, before then, I used to work for social services in Kent, and I had an issue at work. At that time, I think there were only about 2 ethnic minorities at work. So it was very tough. So I had an issue with my manager. I was going on. I was tired. I thought, you know what? I need counseling. I said it just so that I could get out of work for a while. So they paid for me to go into counseling. And whilst I was speaking to this professional, she didn't ask me about the problem. She just started asking me about myself. She said, oh, what do you like? What's your passion? Very easy for me. I told her. And she said, oh, why don't you look into it? Well, reluctantly, I got home. I called a friend of mine, actually, Kemi. She comes to our church. I said, what's it about this child minding? Oh, you can register. I thought it would be a long process. It wasn't a long process. I registered. I was still working. And I went for the classes. It wasn't a long one. It was a couple of weeks. And I just did it. And by the time I finished the course, I knew I was ready.
So you did the training.
I did the training.
Child-
The home-based
Okay.
training.
Okay.
There's a different one. There's a home-based training.
Okay.
And as if God wanted me to go into it, the day I finished was the day I got my registration. So my registration was quick because I was already in the system. And my tutor actually gave me 2 children to start with. Yes. So I didn't leave my job immediately. I faced it. So I went back to work and I went on a flexible working contract. So I would do after school. That's how I started. So from 3 till 6:30, So that's how I started. I started at home actually. Then we were living in our first flat. Do you remember
I
that
remember the
flat?
flat,
Yes,
yes.
yes. And and I started with these two mixed children, and less than 3 months, I had other children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Less than 3 months. So how did you grow? Because
Grow it.
one of the problems people challenges people face in business
Yes.
is business growth. So someone gave you 2 kids to start with.
Yes.
So how did you grow from 2 kids
To
to
four.
yes?
Okay, so another thing that I had done, I've always known I was going to go into business. So even though my first degree was in microbiology, I actually did CIM. I studied marketing and a few things. So I knew a few things here and there. I was always writing my figures, obviously. And what I did was I started visiting other childcare providers, nurseries. I went to the children's center. I went to speak to the council. I went for every event they organized for children. I would wake up in the morning, dressed. Even though I was working from home, I was very professional. I would get up. I would, do everything by the books. I would take the children out in my car. We'll go for events. Would register for everything. I took them swimming. I took them to the gym. I took them to the park. We went to the children's center activity. Went to the toy library. We went to Legoland. We go to the zoo. So we were doing a lot of things. We were not just sitting at home. So it was easy for people to know us, that we were doing something. So actually, I got quite a few referrals as well from the council.
Okay.
Yes.
So because you were networking and taking the kids out, people got to know that this is what you do, and
Yes.
start referring people to you and the council
Yes.
also. All right,
Yes.
all right. So how many did you working from home, right?
Yes.
How many did you? I know you were living in a flat.
Yes.
So how many kids were you able to accommodate before? Yes.
So because at that time I didn't even have a child, they were very skeptical about how I was going to be able to deal with the children. So initially they approved me for 5, but after about 6 months, I reapplied, and then I got, right. Another thing I did was, once I started making what I could make working for social services, I changed my contract again to as at when, because I didn't want to not have any financial base. So sometimes I work at the weekend when I didn't have the children. So in less than a year, we had to move. So I moved to a bigger house and then I hired an assistant so that I could get more children.
Or you moved to a bigger house, your house, or you moved to a rented facility for the nursery?
No, I moved to another house.
Oh, your house. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that was
okay.
not far from the flat. And then I hired one person so we could have 12 children. At some point we had about 15. I had another person, and then I started looking for facility. So whilst I was looking, I knew I had to have a qualification. The minimum was level 3 then in childcare, which I didn't have. So I started the qualification, started visiting nurseries, going to talk to people that started theirs from the beginning. Then I started looking for venue. And when I found the Dartford venue, I hadn't finished my qualification then. So what I did was I hired the best I could find, even though I knew I was going to be paying a lot. So I hired someone that had a degree in childcare to come and work with me whilst I finished my qualification. So yeah.
Now, most people, when they grow their business from home, right?
Yes.
They stop there. They stop there because, okay, I do my 9 to 5 when I feel like doing it. This business is paying me now. So why did you think of expanding and not just settling for? I mean, you could easily have said I now do what I love doing. I work from home and I go into main work when I feel like going in.
Yes.
So why did you think about expanding, and were you not scared of the risk of signing a lease for a year, 2 years, knowing fully well that anything can happen to it? Why did you do that?
A couple of things. First thing, at this time, my family was thinking of migrating, and I had about 15 children. I didn't want to leave those children. I wanted continuity. I'd worked so hard. I wanted the business and the dream to continue. So I thought to myself, if I move it outside my home, then it will be able to stand by itself. So that was one of the reasons why. And then also, at this time, I had visited a lot of nurseries and I saw how people started. And I knew that I could do it because I'd started from home. I'd started from 2 and I got to 15.
You have experience on.
Yes. And I also believe that I was that good that wherever I moved to, the families would come with me. And they did. It was quite a while. It was from a different borough, from Bexley to Dartford. And I spoke to them and they all came with me. So I knew that it would work.
Okay. So, but business rent. It's one thing to run a business from home. Yeah, because okay, I live here, so it's not like my rent is going to increase. It's not like my water bill is going to increase. But hiring, but by the time you are renting a place, then your numbers have to stack up, right?
Yes.
Okay, then your numbers have to stack up. So how did you handle the fear of, or the challenge of, getting a place that getting a leased property? How did you manage that?
So I'd like to say that I was also favored because I met these people that were renting out this facility then, and they said, "Oh, you're such a young lady. How are you going to manage this? How are you going to do this?" And they said, "We'll do up the whole place for you at no cost." They didn't charge me. They did up the whole
nobody
place.
knows that. Nobody knows that. Okay.
Yes. So it was favor that I couldn't explain. So I literally, I remember that the only things I paid for were the wash and basins that I wanted in the rooms. So they literally did the whole place.
And you didn't have to pay for it?
I didn't pay anything for it. So by the time I moved, I'm quite visual. I'm always writing. So I kind of calculated my figures. I knew that because I was also in childcare, it was easy for me. Now I knew what there was to know about childcare. So when I started, I was a staff too. So rather than putting a staff to open, and I also had a lot of good friends, I have to say. So I would go and open with a friend. I made sure I checked all of them, police checked. I would open and start because the morning dwindles, isn't it? People don't come or go. So I had all my figures kind of like, if I have this number of children and I open and I close and I do this, I would break even.
Okay.
So I was very involved at the beginning, yes.
Now, children, anything that has to do with kids in UK can be very, very difficult because of because kids are kids. I know. Yes. So you have regular checks, you have stringent measures, you have. So how do you deal with the government red tapes or the requirement or the level of care and diligence required to run this? Don't you find that frustrating? Or so how do you manage that?
It's very challenging, but what I do is I'm always reading because the statutory requirements, that's the legal, is always changing. So I'm also a part of a lot of like forums, like my insurance as well, Motor Michelle. They're quite popular in childcare. They would send updates. I also have a company that look after all the legal stuff. So if there's an update, they'll send me. There's a council as well, they'll send us. I go for trainings regularly. It's actually a requirement. I need to do a certain number of trainings every year as the responsible person. I redo my police checks as well on the update service. I'm always reading, actually. And then I guess with experience, you get to think, all right, what can go wrong? What can I do? I'm putting things in place, really, not cutting corners. There's just no way.
So what's your greatest challenge to date doing this line of work?
I would say, yes, fear of the unknown as well.
Fear of parents calling one day and say, hey, you know what, Happy Feet is over, we're not coming back.
Not even so much as that. It's, yes, a parents could be very grumpy and they could go on and on. oh, I don't want to speak to the deputy, I don't want to speak to this, I want to speak to you, I'm not happy about this, I want this, I want that, I want to pay when I want you to give me special rates, I want to do this, why can't I do this? Why can't you put my child here? Why can't you do this?
Do you face harassment from parents at times?
I do. I do. I do.
So what advice will you have for someone who is thinking of going into nursery? Somebody who has a passion for children and is looking into start owning a nursery one day, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 like yourself. What advice will you give such individual?
I'll just say be ready to really work. There's no shortcuts to it. You just have to be in it. You have to, it's not the sort of job where you do and you go and sit down at home and think that everything is going to come to you. You just have to be ready to work, ready to take risks, ready to spend money and your energy, and just keep to the law. If you really like it, because you're in it, most of the time you can you can circumvent a lot of the issues, really.
So you said about money. So how many? Talking about funding, how did you fund yourself initially? Because you said that you mentioned money a few minutes. That means you must have capital to invest. So what will you advise in terms of fundraising or capital required to get something like this going?
I mean, when we started, I didn't even know there was funding because they said there was no funding. But when we invited the early years to have a look, they said, oh, you've done this. We've got the last bit of the funding money. And that's how, we were fortunate to get that funding. I mean, for the one we're opening now, they said, oh, well, there's funding, there's no startup funding anymore. But yes, and also because I had started gradually, it was a gradual move.
Process, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't have to cough up front for a lot of stuff, but starting from home, and then you build upon that and be able to save up some money to move to the next phase.
Yes.
All right. Well, Proprietress Nike, thank you for having us at Mentoring Moment, and I look forward to dedicating the next building. All right.
Sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yes.
Thank you.